This week marks the 150th anniversary of Memorial Day, but even those who stop to remember the fallen may be surprised by the fascinating history of the occasion. Kenneth C. Davis is the best-selling author of the Don't Know Much About series. Ken, good morning.
Good morning. Always a pleasure.
The first Memorial Day, 1868, was actually called Decoration Day?
That's right, because the idea was you would go out and decorate the graves of the fallen soldiers with fresh flowers. Now, like everything else in American history, there's some controversy here. Some towns say, well, they were doing it earlier than 1868. But this year, 1868, was important because a former Union general, a very prominent man named John Logan, said we should do this on May 30th, 1868. One other important point, he was talking about Union soldiers, those who had died fighting the rebellion of tyranny, as he called it, and also to free those in chains. So it's clearly related to the emancipation of slaves and the Civil War. But that's why the Confederate States set up their own decoration days.
And thus it was initially viewed as a partisan
It was
holiday.
partisan, it was divisive, it was a long time before the country celebrated as one, and that really took 100 years ago and World War I, which we're celebrating the anniversary of that conflict as well.
And that partisanship has been sort of brought up to the surface again as we talk about the Confederate monuments, right, that have been taken down now, and the flag itself. Can you talk about what that means?
Many people don't understand or still don't know that Arlington Cemetery, this sacred space for the nation, was taken out of property owned by Robert E. Lee, whose statues are being removed all over the country, of course. And so from the very beginning, the deep enmity between North and South was part of this holiday. It did take World War I, when Americans came together and fought together 100 years ago in 1918, to make the holiday more of an inclusive national holiday. And of course, that was when it was decided to build the Tomb of the Unknown.
In 1971, the holiday became an official federal holiday. Describe the climate of the time, because we were knee-deep in Vietnam. That's
right. You know, when I was a kid growing up, Memorial Day was always May 30th. That was the original date of the 1868 proclamation. In time, that was changed, and it became a national three-day holiday in 1971. But we were in the midst of Vietnam right then. So Memorial Day lost some of its appeal, perhaps, as the country couldn't separate out their feelings about an unpopular war and the feelings of the military. We've done a better job of that, I think, nowadays. Yeah. We can look at, even though we don't always agree with the war, we know that the men and women who are fighting are doing that. They chose to do that. They are fighting for the country, and they are not the ones who chose the war.
How did the poppy, Ken, become kind of a symbol for Memorial Day? It's an international symbol for this.
It is. It's also a vestige of World War I, a famous poem written by a Canadian surgeon. It begins, "In Flanders fields, the poppies blow between the crosses row by row." The striking image of poppies growing up at Flanders, which is a terrible battlefield in World War I. A young American woman saw that poem, read that poem. She started to sell fresh poppies and then silk poppies as a way to raise funds for veterans and their orphans and widows. The poppy became the symbol, the blood-red poppy, of loss, sacrifice, the things that we talk about when we're talking about Memorial Day.
Ken Davis, always great to have you to school us on the history we don't know much about, but we learn a lot about when you're here.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure.